Hello and welcome. This video is part of the WISE Media Library that provides guidance to different elements in the WISE improvement methodology. The focus of this video is on the tool for assessing maturity of technology. The purpose of WISE improvement methodology is to add value to the organization. It is based on the WISE framework that defines the basic elements of value creation: people, organization, processes, technology, change management, and performance monitoring. Improvement steps include processes, shown in blue boxes, and assessments, shown in yellow boxes. Assessments are aligned with the value creation elements. WISE methods and tools help us answer several key questions, starting with what do we want to improve? This question is first defined in the preliminary planning step, and in most cases the improvement will be focused on a specific business process. Once the process has been identified, we can perform two assessments: examine the characteristics of the business process that we want to improve, and assess the maturity of the technology that supports and enables that process. The following three steps in the methodology include the processes to develop a detailed business process model, a detailed analysis of the as-is conditions, the design of improvements in the processes and technologies, and the identification of changes that we want to make. Now that we know which changes will be necessary to make improvements, is this sufficient to understand how to implement the change? Are we ready to plan the improvement efforts and proceed with implementation? Many improvement efforts do not succeed because a couple of additional questions are not properly considered. Will people engaged in the improvement efforts? Will they collaborate? Will people accept the changes that have been identified? WISE provides us with tools and methods to also consider the people element by conducting an assessment of the organizational culture and workforce, and assess the organization's readiness for the specific changes that the improvement team wants to accomplish. Preliminary planning is described in a different video that is also part of our media library. The project charter that is developed in this step includes the selection of the business process that we want to improve. The characteristics of the business process that was identified for improvement in the project charter is first examined using an assessment tool. This tool further defines the roles and the stakeholders, determines the maturity level of existing process documentation, identifies the business goals and metrics, and assesses the current practices for managing the process. Preliminary planning and business process assessment define the business goals and the metrics contained in a table like the example shown above. This information provides the basis for preparing the functional requirements that technology will need to meet in order to enable the achievement of these business goals. Technology may also play a key role in collecting the data that is related to metrics and KPIs and tracking performance. The tool to assess the characteristics of the selected business process and the tool for assessing the maturity of technology that is enabling that business process are in the same spreadsheet. Worksheets with the purple background are used for the business process. Worksheets with the light blue background are used for the assessment of technology maturity. Placing these two assessments into a single spreadsheet is intended to facilitate the development of reports and dashboards that combine the results from both of these assessments. The WISE knowledge base currently includes subfolders where each utility can keep the files related to their pilot improvement effort. When you're ready to start, a blank version of the spreadsheet for assessment can be placed in the designated folder and renamed to include the name of your organization or the name of your pilot effort. Technology maturity assessment includes 6 worksheets. They are marked with light blue background and they're organized in 3 sections. Section 1 worksheet is used to identify the data and the systems that are required to meet the business needs for the selected process. This section includes 4 columns. Fields have been populated in the table just as an example of what this table might look like. In the first column, users are asked to identify the categories of data that are needed to effectively enable the execution of the business process that was selected for improvement and to support the decisions that have to be made as part of that process. The instructions mention several examples of different data categories, and they are provided just as reminders for reference only. In the second column, users are asked to identify the authoritative source, a system or a database where the data resides for each category of the required data. Examples are included in the worksheet as reminders or references to the person who's collecting information. This worksheet also captures information about the business unit that is responsible for collecting or creating each category of required data. This information is helpful as it identifies the stakeholders and the subject matter experts who will need to be engaged. We also identify which business units are responsible for supporting each system or database that is authoritative source for each data category. Having such a list of subject matter experts and their affiliation helps us understand the resources we will need to engage in improvement efforts. It also helps us understand the governance of technology within the organization and the potential involvement of external parties such as vendors and/or consultants. Section 2 of the worksheet addresses the priorities for data needs and the current analytical capabilities of existing IT systems. Under the first question in this section, participants estimate how important is each category of data for the successful execution of this business process. This information will be helpful in differentiating between the data that is nice to have from the data that is critically important for the business process. The second question in this section helps us understand the maturity or the capability of each authoritative system to provide the analytical capabilities that support the selected business process. This column is related to the third layer of the technology maturity model. What type of analytics are included in the individual IT systems or applications and databases? Answers for each cell are selected from the drop-down menus. Colors and numbers are assigned to different answers from the drop-down menus. When a question is related to a capability, such as the one on the right side above, numbers and colors indicate the level of maturity. In this case, green color, or level 5, means that an authoritative system has full analytical capability. Red color means maturity level 1 and indicates no capability or very poor capability. The question on the left side is related to impact or importance, not to capability. Therefore, the scale is about the impact. If the impact is critical, the level is 1 and the color is red. If it is not important, the level is 5 and the color is green. This helps us identify areas of concern. When we look at the results from all the questions in a dashboard, they will include many elements. The red color will indicate area of concern, high impact or low capability, and the green color will indicate low impact or high capability. To assess the level of challenge we will be facing as we launch improvement efforts, we need both pieces of information. From the challenge or risk point of view, this choice of levels and colors is therefore consistent. In section 3, columns collect information about technology maturity or capability for each category of the required data and the authoritative systems that have been defined in Section 1. The 4 worksheets in Section 3 are roughly aligned with the technology maturity model. This worksheet describes the mechanism used to collect or generate the data for each of the categories. In this worksheet, for each of the data categories that have been identified as required for the selected business process, users will select the current or as-is method for data creation collection from the drop-down menu. The answers in the drop-down menu indicate levels of capability maturity that range from level 1 in red for the least advanced to level 5 in dark green that would indicate the most mature method of data creation or collection. We may not want to automatically assume that the most mature level for creating or collecting data is always required. The second question allows us to take into account if the current level of maturity meets the needs of this process or if improvements are required to adequately address the business needs. The set of 4 columns in the data management worksheet are dedicated to collecting information about 3 questions about data management maturity. Is data well documented? Is it reliable? And is it complete? This column identifies the maturity of the documentation that is available for each of the data categories that are required for the selected business process. Documentation about the data provides a foundation for designing and implementing effective practices for data management. Lack of documentation can be a barrier, especially if we want to use the data outside of its authoritative system and integrate it with data from other different systems. An important component of data quality is reliability, the level of confidence that the data is accurate. To make reasonable judgments about data reliability and answer these questions, it is important to engage the end users of the data and engage the technical subject matter experts who would be familiar with the systems and processes that are in place to check the validity and identify problems and errors. The range of maturity is from less than 70% of the data is being reliable and all data being reliable. Another component of data quality is completeness. The column on the left is about the completeness of data records, and the column on the right is about the completeness of attributes that are associated with the records. This is a significant challenge for some of the key IT applications or systems. To illustrate the importance of data completeness, we can look at the results of the AWWA report on asset management. We can see that most utilities report that their asset management data is incomplete. The next component of data quality is data organization. These questions examine 2 aspects of data organization for each of the data categories: the consistency of nomenclature and taxonomy. This column captures information about the consistency of nomenclature. For example, if the name for a data element, such as a physical asset, perhaps a pump or a valve, or a signal from a measurement device like flow rate, information about warranty, or availability in a warehouse, work order for a repair, geographical location, or project number for a replacement effort, is consistently applied within a single authoritative system to a higher level of maturity if the name for that data element is consistent across all systems. This question captures information about the consistency of data organization. In other words, if the elements are organized within a taxonomy that is consistently applied within a single system to the highest level of maturity if the same taxonomy and hierarchy are applied throughout all the systems. Again, looking at the results from the AWWA survey, we can see that the maturity of the asset management data across the water sector is fairly low, with only a small fraction of utilities reporting a well-defined hierarchy of their assets. The accessibility worksheet captures information that is related to the capabilities to enable analytics on the enterprise level. The question on the left collects information about the methods to access the data that is required for this process and resides in one of the systems or databases that are authoritative for each of the data categories. The question on the right side assesses the impact of having enterprise-level access to different data categories, whether it is a must-have or a nice-to-have. This information helps the improvement team to prioritize the areas for improvement. In addition to having access to the data, enterprise analytics would also require tools with adequate functionality. Assessing the maturity of the currently available tools for enterprise data analytics would be useful, but is beyond the scope of this assessment. It is better to conduct such assessment separately. To clarify the difference between local and enterprise analytics and insights, we will use asset management as an example. A standard way to look at asset management is through the asset life cycle, as defined by the International Infrastructure Management Manual. Their model was slightly modified for the specific purpose of this guideline video. Asset life cycle is defined as a set of processes that are performed by different people in different business units. In this specific example from a large utility, a few key stakeholders have been defined in operations, engineering, and information technology and finance for each of the stages of asset management life cycle. Effective management of assets requires interaction and collaboration between different business units and support from different systems. Each of these systems may be used to create and collect different data, and the created or collected data needs to be organized within each system, and each system may offer different analytical capabilities that address the needs of its primary user. We will refer this to local analytics. As a specific example, if during asset planning stage, engineering facility planning only has access to their own primary or local systems, perhaps the system used for developing the CIP, and engineering design has only access to their primary systems, such as hydraulic model or CAD, that address their own needs, they will be able to perform analytics that are contained in these primary systems using the data that is managed by these authoritative systems. For this example, if engineering facility planning and engineering design also have access to data from other systems, such as historical operational data from SCADA, history of work orders from the CMMS, budget information from finance, analytics can be performed using all that diverse data and on the enterprise level. The ability to access and analyze data from different systems by stakeholders from different business units that are engaged in different business processes is referred to as enterprise analytics because it serves and benefits the entire organization or enterprise and provides insights that are not limited to a single authoritative system and their users. Development of dashboards for summarizing and reporting the results of this technology maturity assessment is work in progress. Discussions are being initiated with wide utility partners to get their input and design reports and dashboards that best meet their needs. Thank you for watching this video. Our assessment tools will continue to be updated based on the feedback received from pilot implementations.